Hey everybody, welcome back to Nerd Overload, the pop and geek culture show that something they're eating the dogs and cats, and I'm Cody.
I'm Sam.
And I'm done.
Yeah.
I'm done with that whole line of yes.
You sick of hearing about that yet? Because I am.
Yep. Well, I promise we're not going to talk about any of that this week, but we are going to talk about a lot of movie trailers. We have some other stuff, PlayStation 5 Pro stuff that's been going on with it. But first, we're going to get into our interview segment. Haha!
Whoa.
It's not our check 'em outs, believe it or not. Act like I didn't tell you before we started recording. But we are going to be talking to Deece Casillas. He is an internationally touring stand-up comedian whose Kickstarter is launching very soon for his first comic book, Kill Stan. Before we get into the interview, just want to mention real quick, we don't touch on it a lot, but we do touch a little tiny bit on the subject matter of his comic book. It deals with self-harm, that sort of thing. So if that's not your jam, skip the first maybe 10 minutes of the interview, but then I promise after that we get into like talking about stand-up comedy and comics in general and that sort of thing. But let's just jump right on into it, and then we'll get into some news after that. How's that sound?
Yeah, come back next week to hear me half remember a horror movie that I watched.
There you go. All right. Well, folks, we're here with Deece Casillas. He is an internationally touring stand-up comedian. He has a new special, which is available now, called Not Your Cup of Tea. He is also the owner of the Social Hour Comedy. It is a production company that produces live comedy events across the country. He hosts the Social Hour podcast and the Social Minute on YouTube. And he is launching a Kickstarter for his first comic book titled Kill Stan on September 15th. Deece, how you doing?
Good. I'm doing all right. I'm a little bumped today. I had an appointment earlier today with a guy. We were supposed to meet at noon. Mm-hmm. And then when I got to meet him, he was not there. And when I messaged him, he told me, sorry, he was confused. He thought noon meant 3:00.
Oh gosh.
So I'm a little concerned that those people are out there voting and driving. But besides that, I'm doing pretty good, Sam.
Well, good. So I just want to jump into some of the things for the comic, since that is the big Kickstarter that's coming out here first. I could see a bunch of comic books and the video behind you. And most folks who start their own comic books, more times than not, have a pretty solid background of reading, collecting, that sort of thing. What first got you into comics?
Well, man, I mean, I just have always loved the medium. I feel like it's a super underrated medium. It doesn't get enough love. It's like I've always said, it's like a movie with unlimited budget, you know?
Yeah, absolutely.
Because you don't have to use special effects. You just gotta pay a Brazilian enough money to draw it for you.
It's true.
The conversion rate's crazy too. So it goes a long way down there. There's just so much you can do in the medium. I mean, everyone thinks, because of Marvel and DC, you think Batman, you think spandex, you think capes, you think Captain America, these type things, which are, part of the medium and in a huge segment of comic books, but you can tell so many stories. And I learned that as I got older, the different types of genres out there. And I really just think there's so much to be told in this medium that it doesn't get enough credit for,
Oh, absolutely. I know that, everybody kind of defaults to the superhero, the big two, that sort of thing. But there are so many different types of comics outside of the superhero world, outside of the big two comics, a lot of indie books. A lot of, some of my favorite comics are like the slice of life kind of stuff, the stuff where, it's just, and you're right, you can do anything with comic books because there's no CG budget, there's no having to pay insurance for actors taking dives and stuff like that. So anyway, got a chance to read the first couple of pages of Kill Stan, and it's a really interesting spin on kind of the superhero genre. I know most heroes get into the game for like truth, justice, all that good stuff. But Stan is a little different. Can you tell me a little bit about his idea of getting into the old superhero game?
Yeah, so I mean, to give you the little like blurb, it's kind of like was the the impetus for this story was during COVID, there was a lot of like police interaction and conflict with riots and all kinds of stuff. And like, I grew up in LA in the 80s during the, height of gang violence, LA riots, stuff like that. And I just remember, so I was thinking like there was this phrase that kept getting tossed around, like suicide by cop, like, hey, I want to die. So I just like it caused this interaction with a police officer and it can get killed, So I had the thought of like, what about, suicide by vigilantism? So it kind of spiraled from there. And the impetus is Stan doesn't want to live anymore. He wants to unalive himself,
yes.
as the kids say these days.
Yeah.
And, he's trying to find a way to do that to offset some of the guilt that he has for wanting to unalive himself. Mm-hmm. So with that, he just decides to go out and, enact a little vigilantism, assuming he'll be killed the first night. He ends up living a little longer than he thought he would, and soon starts to realize that the desperate neighborhood he's living in is revering him as this hero, and he's caught between selfishly wanting to die in a neighborhood that now can't survive without him.
It's an interesting take, like I said, because I have heard of the suicide by cop and everything like that. Yeah, you don't see that often. Now, is this in your world? Like I said, I only read the first couple pages of it, what you sent me basically. And are there other vigilantes in this universe, or is he just kind of like the first one that just kind of went, you know what? I've read these in comics. I've watched the movies. I'm going to put on a mask and just see what happens.
Yeah, I really wanted it. The original version was he was inspired by another vigilante, another character I created years ago that I hope to work on down the line. But then I thought it kind of took away from the weight of what he was doing if there's other vigilantes and there's like magic and special stuff in here. If it's very grounded in reality. Because I felt like there was more just headiness to it. If there, because if like there's clones and aliens and magic, and it's like, yeah, all right, so a guy dies, he doesn't die, who cares,
Well, because in mainstream comics, you die, and 6 issues later, you're back to life anyway. So it's like, okay, no, that makes sense. That makes sense.
So I wanted it's very much grounded in reality, this just I wanted a take that was interesting. It's more there's no altruism, I mean, he's doing this selfishly and has no desire to actually really make change. And then he starts to get the people around the neighborhood start to, because they don't know the situation, so they start to view him as this guy who's out enacting justice, and they're like, oh, finally someone's standing up for us. But so there's that emotional conflict of him having to grapple with the guilt of, these people looking up to him when he is again wanting to selfishly die. So there's a lot. Really, it's like I said, it's a character piece. It's not there. There's vigilantism involved, and there's some fight scenes, but it's really very much about the internal psychological struggle of this man dealing with day-to-day life and the weight of that. And I feel like that's it. Kind of the metaphor is that's something we all feel. Mm-hmm. And what would we do if we could take it to an extreme,
Yeah, absolutely. And again, it's a really cool take. You don't see it, something you don't see very often. Although I will say there are some, DC recently put out a comic, I guess it was maybe 6 months ago, where it was called Heroes in Crisis, I think. And it was like a one shot. There was some big, huge event. I still read comics. I've been kind of out of the big two for a good while. So I'm just kind of secondhand getting this. But basically, there was some big, huge event and they decided to do a one shot. Someone opened up like a counseling center. And you get some of these B and C tier heroes kind of one-on-one with like basically a one shot with a camera kind of going through, okay, what's going on in their brain after this big, huge thing. But so they're starting to touch on that a little bit, but it's cool that you're doing an entire series that's, like you said, a big character piece, kind of going to that kind of stuff.
That's 100% what I want to do. It's, on the surface, you sell it to the industry by putting a mask on the guy.
Oh, sure.
But then you're backdooring this just like psych piece on a guy.
Yeah, you come for the capes, you stay for the emotion. Kind of.
Right.
Yeah. So starting up, I take it this is your first Kickstarter. Is that correct?
This is my first Kickstarter, his first venture into comic books. I am a published writer. I've written books before. I've written for shows. I've written for websites and comedy stuff and all kinds of stuff. But as my first time actually doing a Kickstarter in a comic book.
Okay, so what, since you've written some books as well, what are the key differences between writing, a standard novel or book or what have you, and a comic book?
Yeah, that's a good question. I mean, really, I'll be honest, it might be harder, in my opinion, to write a comic book.
Oh, really?
And maybe it's just because I'm such a comic book fanatic and such a comic book snob that I don't want it to fall into this just genre or this sea of mediocrity of just kind of averageness in the comic book. But I'm a very detailed writer when it comes to the comic book script. They always talk about the old Marvel way where the artists would just kind of the Stan Lee would give Jack Kirby a half a page plot. Dr. Doom's trying to steal a gem that takes him to the past so he can get a Tyrannosaurus. And
right. Yeah.
Oh, and then Jack draws 22 pages and then Stan just comes in and fills in dialogue,
Yeah.
Whereas I'm writing each panel pretty detailed. So each page broken down into individual panels. I'm writing how I want those panels set up a lot of the times, the point of view, what I want around, the color scope. I'm drawing thumbnails and sketches, sending to the artist. I was very specific about the coloring and how I wanted this book colored. So basically all the coloring because you see it a little bit in the first couple pages, but even more so in the rest of the book. There's a lot of use of color as far as storytelling in this book, which I think is important because I love film so much, and that's a big thing to me in film is that you can tell a lot just by color schemes. So yeah, I wanted to take all those things and put it into a comic book. So yeah, it takes longer for me to do that, and then write so detailed that because you're writing in 5 dimensions as opposed to just I'm writing this narrative, just typing this narrative, keep going. I don't have to, and you can flow a little easier.
Yeah, it's almost like script writing with all of the direction, but not just the stage direction, but the background direction, all that stuff, right?
Yeah. Because I've done script writing too. It's a lot. I use the same program actually for comic books that I do for Final Draft. And but you're also adding a lot more depth in art direction than even in scripts, for me anyway.
Yeah, and all that extra direction definitely helps when you are, not standing right there next to the artist, kind of giving them pointers. How did you go about finding the artist for the comic? The name escapes me, unfortunately.
Yeah, that's okay. His name's Felipe Sobreira. He is a fantastic artist out of Brazil, actually. He's really great. There's just a lot of resources online for networking for independent comic creators. So when I decided I was going to do this book, I solicited on some of those pages for an artist. I provided some samples of the type of art I was looking for, and a little bit about what the project was about. Kind of a basic crime noir thriller tone with some horror elements. And I told people, I'm send me your portfolio and send me your page rates. And then I got a bunch of emails. I started whittling down what I liked, what I could afford. Luckily Felipe was my favorite artist, and he had a reasonable page rate too. So, there were people who shot me pretty crazy page rates that I was far less impressed with. So, then I got on FaceTime call like this with Felipe, talked about the project, where, my expectations, his expectations, just to make sure we would have a good working relationship. And
Mm-hmm.
he was great. I mean, honestly, I had a couple interviews booked after him. I still did them out of courtesy, but as soon as I was done with the first call with Felipe, I knew he was the guy I was going to work.
That's awesome. That's awesome that you're able to find, and that the resources out there are out there and really accessible. Finding indie comic guys, people trying to break into the business, that sort of thing, and you're able to get matched up with them pretty quickly, pretty smoothly, it seems. So that's awesome.
Yeah, and especially if you're willing to have a budget, you're willing to spend some money. Because I mean, a lot of people try to do these indie projects and team up with an artist and say, "Hey, we'll split money down the line." And it's like, I hate to tell you this, there's probably not going to be a lot of money down the line for a little bit. And also, it's tough to keep someone else interested in your project if you're not paying them. Sure. So I was just like, no, I'm going to invest the time. I'm going to invest the money, pay an artist and do this the right way.
Yeah. It's a legitimate business. You want to be, do it as legitimately as possible. That, the sharing stuff, I've, had a little bit of history with that, and it just, it never works out. Never works out.
No, it's not. Yeah, it's just not going to happen. No. It doesn't matter if it's a stranger or your best friend. There's going to be some loss of interest and discrepancy on amount of effort.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. So I want to jump a little bit over into your the comedy side of things, the stand-up comedy, that sort of thing. Yeah. So I've had a chance to watch a handful of clips on your YouTube page. I believe that's from your special that you recorded here recently. So it seems like a lot of your comedy comes from like, real life events, observation, that sort of thing. So is that kind of the main thrust of, the comedy that you do?
Yeah, it's I think it's different at different times. I've kind of got, if you watch my hour, I think you could, if you're savvy enough, you could probably start to break down stuff that I wrote earlier and stuff that I wrote later. Because as you know, I used to write more jokes. They were shorter, they were jokes, and I had a lot of them, which I still do that. And I like that because I want to pack my set with a lot of jokes, laughs per minute, they say. So I still sprinkle a lot of those in. But you learn to tackle different subjects. You learn to, as you grow as a comedian, you're able to talk about things you just weren't good enough to talk about. Oh, sure. Like you may have had, there's a lot of concepts I started with that I didn't understand comedy enough to do that, So now I can go back and revisit those and make them funny, So, I talk about a lot about myself, my life. I like to talk about some things happening today, current event stuff, but really I just want to take things that people find uncomfortable and push it onto them a little bit, just get them a little bit closer to that, because I think there's a lot of room for discomfort in comedy. And I think we need that because I've been to too many comedy shows or comedy scenes where it's just it's like preaching. It's not comedy. And people are, they're not looking for, they call it clapter, not laughter, where people are looking for this approval. It's like, if you're only talking to people who think and talk and believe the exact same thing as you, is like, what are you doing? You're just a blowhard in a wind tunnel.
Absolutely.
Go talk to people who are different than you, think differently, and then you'll see how much of your set is BS and how much of it is real.
Yeah. No, the uncomfortableness, like a cross between the laughter because it's funny and the laughter because it's kind of that nervous laughter, kind of okay, yeah, I get it. Cool. Yeah. So along with that, what are some of your comedic influences? Some of the people that you kind of, not so much emulated, but just kind of got, okay, a little bit from this, a little bit from that sort of thing.
That's a good question. I don't, I like so many different forms of comedy. My favorite comedian ever is Norm Macdonald.
Oh yeah. Okay, great. Cool.
Yeah. He's just the guy. He's so good. Oh, so funny that guy was. But I'm nothing like him. My comedy's nothing nothing like him. The only way I maybe like him a little bit is a lot of the times I'm doing jokes to entertain myself. So I do that a bit, which maybe I'm just realizing maybe he rubbed off on me that way. Because Norm was like that a lot.
Mm-hmm.
I think some of my favorite comedians I'm nothing like, I mean, like I love Dave Chappelle. Daniel Tosh is one of my favorite comedians. I think he's a super underrated comic just because he did that show for so long that people forgot how good he was at stand up.
Absolutely.
Yeah. And like really sharp and really smart, smarter than people give it credit for. So yeah, those are some people I really like. And even now there's still comics that I watch that, Taylor Tomlinson is like a super inspiring comic to me. I think she's amazing. She's a phenom. That girl's crazy. Yeah. I mean, those are some of my favorites over the years, kind of spanning generations, I guess. But
okay. Well, that's awesome. So you also own. You're a busy guy. I'll tell you what. You're a busy guy. You also own your own production company, the Social Hour Comedy. What goes into some of the events that you do, planning some of the comedy shows and the podcast and all everything kind of tied into that. I know it's a huge question, but with many answers, but
it's a big web, I mean, the Social Hour started off over 10 years ago, just as the name of my podcast. And it's still my podcast. I do. It's a weekly show. I've been doing it for over 10 years now. 500 episodes about. And then it kind of became the umbrella, just because I love the name so much, for kind of everything I do. So the Social Hour Comedy was born as I started traveling more and started producing my own shows. And then these venues I'd go, like I was get on the road and I would just I'm like, well, I'm going to do this club, but I'm going to travel all the way to North Carolina for this club. Like, why don't I try and set some shows up along the way and back? And, I started doing that. And then these venues would be like, oh, that was great. Can you get us more comedians? And I'd be like, well, sure. I know comics. And so I kind of just naturally, this network of shows I was involved in was growing rapidly. So now it's like we've got, I think, over 40 rooms in 21 states. I run shows in regularly. I've worked with a lot of killer comedians, been able to get a lot of comics paid, get them work, which was kind of the big thing. Is why I really started doing it at first. I wanted to get, because I mean, I'm a road comic. I've done a million shows on the road. I know how hard it is to get work and find shows. So, if I could give back and get work for other comics that are out there grinding, that's great. It's a tough gig sometimes. So yeah, I wanted to be able to get people, opportunities to get out there more and get some more stage time.
Well, that's fantastic. Yeah. I mean, it's good to get out, to help folks out, some of the, other comics and that sort of thing, because unless you're one of the big, huge names, you really, I agree. It'd be tough to get out there and kind of set up your stuff. I know growing up, I watched a lot of like Comedy Central and HBO specials of comedy. You don't really see a whole lot of that these days. I mean, it's all goes digital eventually, a couple weeks or months or what have you down the road. But it's good to be able to kind of get together with a bunch of other comics and get out there and have set places to go and do shows and stuff like that. That's really cool. It's really cool.
Yeah. I mean, honestly, if you're willing to put in a little bit of work, I don't think there's a better time to be a comedian, because there's so many opportunities out there that, I mean, the reality is, if you're an unknown headliner, you'll probably make more money doing one of my shows than you would doing a show at a comedy club. I may not pay you much more, but I'll probably pay you more than they are. I pay more than industry standard for an unknown headliner. So it's like I mean, like, I want to get these people paid. There's opportunity out there. There's really, you got to be independent, go out there and hustle and find it. It's out there. And, the only way to build an audience in comedy is going out on the road. And, you can develop your audience. And once you've cultivated your own audience, you don't need the clubs. You don't need agents. You don't need you can develop your own fan base easily now.
Oh, sure, yeah. And comedy has always been a big, like one of the biggest examples of word of mouth. You know, you could do a million interviews and that sort of thing, but like getting out there, doing the show, having people go, "Oh, this is great. I'm going to get my buddies next time they're in town. We're going to go," and kind of spread like that. So yeah, really cool. Yeah. So I just have a couple more questions about Kill Stand before we kind of wrap things up. After the comic comes out and, you go through it, get the story told with what you're doing. I guess, first off, what's the next step after that? Doing more comics? Are you going to be, you have your own comic company as well, Inferno Comics, Did I get that correct? Okay, yeah. And are you going to be looking for, like, I don't know, other writers, other teams to come on and kind of help produce stuff the same way you're helping with the comics at the get different gigs with the shows?
Yeah. I mean, all of that really. So the Kill Stand is a 10-issue series. So I've got it written out. We got the beginning, middle, and end. So once the Kickstarter runs from 9/15 to 10/15, and then ideally, as soon as it's done, we'll be starting on issue number 2, and hopefully, depending on my team's schedule, but hopefully we'd be able to get issue number 2 out by the end of the year, and then ideally get about 3 or 4 issues out in 2025 also. Okay. So, I mean, we may be able to do it faster, but I mean, realistically, it's just, there's a flow in trying to get my artists to get it all done. And then you got to get it to the colorist and letter. So
absolutely. Yeah.
It takes time. And right now we're kind of like doing one, then moving to the next one. I hope to be able to have it just be cyclical, whereas we're just constantly working on them. But as soon as Kill Stand's done, I do have other projects. I've got about 100 comic book projects I want to work on. Wow. So there is a follow up. I'm torn between two books right now that I'm going to do to follow up Kill Stand. So we'll kind of see where my heart is pulling me at the end of that. Which direction which book's calling to me a little more. A lot of it'll depend on the success of this. If it's, things are going gangbusters, it'll be easier to do more and do them more rapidly. So my hope is that, every Kill Stand blows up, people love it. I think if they read it, they'll love it. And we'll be able to move into the next projects faster and faster. And ideally, I could start getting multiple projects out there. I've got scripts done on a lot of stuff. So if the revenue is there, because I mean, I make money off my production company and doing comedy. So like, I'm fine with breaking even or being in the red a little bit with the comic books for a couple years, to get it going. So, as long as I'm not losing thousands of dollars on every project, I will continue to, cause I mean, I know you gotta front load the time and effort.
Oh yeah. Most businesses, it takes a while before you're able to get kind of solvent or like, start kind of getting into the black of those sort of things.
Yeah. So
it's like with anything.
The success will depend on the speed a little bit, but we do, it is 10 issues. We hope to get them out as quickly as possible, then move to the next project and ideally have multiple projects coming out all the time. As far as working with other writers and artists, I definitely do want to, that's blue sky scenario is that I can help other artists and writers on the path and get published. My ideal blue sky scenario is that I want to do a talent contest at some point and pick the best book and publish it.
Okay.
So, and then just basically all I do is I'd be like, listen, the first, once I get my money back as far as what I put into advertising and like printing, everything else is yours. You still own it. You don't have to publish it through Inferno. Like, I don't want money out of it. I want to get other people seen because I've done this I used to do music. I've done it in publishing books. I've done it in comedy, and I'm doing it in comic books now. I know how hard it is, that journey to get seen. Yep. And for someone to pay attention and for someone to care. So if I'm in a position where I have a little bit of juice that I can help get someone a little bit of bump, I definitely want to do that for people.
Okay, so that's fantastic. That's great. Last question about Kill Stan. So many comics and those kind of properties are making it to the big screen, or even fan films, that sort of thing. Do you ever see Kill Stan being turned into like a short, or like a film, blue sky of film or anything like that? Is that something that's kind of in the back of the mind a little bit as well?
I mean, yeah, honestly, I do. I think it's got a really great concept. The overwhelmingly, the people who've read the preview, or the few people that have read the whole first issue, the one common thread, pretty much all of them has said, is, wow, this is such an original concept I've never seen before. Mm-hmm. Which is in in an industry where they print thousands of books a month for the last 80 years. It is flattering to have a concept that people resoundingly see as original. So yeah, I think I don't think it's crazy to feel that could happen. I've got a pretty aggressive marketing strategy. I've already got kind of a fan base. I'm on the road a lot. I'm booking conventions around my tour schedule, so I'm going to be doing conventions during the day, comedy shows at night. So like I kind of have, I feel like it's gonna get to a point where it's gonna get noticed. I would love a show. I would love I could see a movie or like an animated show, like the old 90s Spawn show, something like that.
There we go. Yeah, good stuff.
Like real dark, definitely adult themed. Because there is a lot of violence in the book, but it's violence for a reason. It's like a Clockwork Orange, It's not
Sure.
It's not gratuitous violence for no reason. It's telling a story, and if you're brave enough to delve into the subtext and read between the lines, you can start to understand why that violence is and what we're saying.
Okay, great. Well, Deece Casillas, thank you again for coming on to the show. Before we let you go, I'll give you a minute or two to kind of plug all your stuff, go over where people can find you.
Yeah, thank you. Let's start with the comic book. Go to Kickstarter and search Kill Stan. The landing page is up there. You can follow the project and get updates. It will go live on September 15th. So please consider supporting the campaign. You won't regret it. There's a 5-page preview up there that'll be on the page, so you can read it and get an idea of what it is. Also, I guarantee that you'll love the book and be happy with supporting the campaign. So also, the faster the campaign gets funded, the more money we get in quicker, the higher we get in the algorithm, the more promotion we get, and it's easier to do future projects. So just please consider supporting ASAP so we can bump up and get that front page view on Kickstarter. That looks really good when we're trying to get into conventions and things. Also, conventions do look at that. They also look at your social media presence. So if you guys would follow us on Instagram, Facebook, or our website, it's all inferno.earth. So inferno.earth on Instagram, inferno.earth on Facebook, or just Inferno Comics, you can search. And our website is inferno.earth. There's no .com anymore. Those are all gone. It's just inferno.earth. So that's it across the board. Follow the socials. That, like I said, that helps a lot. Literally, the conventions will follow you on your Instagram page and look at how many followers you have to see if you've submitted to get into a convention. But I will be doing my first convention in Dallas at the Dallas Fan Fest, October 19th and 20th. So guys, if you're in the area, please come check that out. I will have some books there. So you will be able to get a book from me that day if you come to the Dallas Fan Festival.
Excellent. All right.
Yeah. So as for comedy, you can follow me at deece.comedy on Instagram. Deece Casillas on Facebook, or the Social Hour of Comedy on Facebook. Deece.comedy is my website. And check out tour dates. If you're listening to this the day it comes out and you're in Washington State, or I'm in Belfair, Washington on the 14th, Anacortes on the 17th, and then I'm doing the Que Chiste Latino Comedy Festival in Seattle, Washington, the 18th through the 21st. And then I'll be back in Texas doing some shows around the area. So just check the calendar and you'll be able to get all the info.
Okay, well, absolutely awesome. Thank you very much, Deece, for coming on the show. Really appreciate it, and good luck with the Kickstarter.
Yeah, thanks, man. Appreciate you having me.
Hey, this is Doug Jones, and you are listening to Nerd Overload, and I'm kind of overloaded with nerddom.
Hey, we're back from the interview and the break.
Well, again, want to thank Deece for taking the time to be on the show, and yeah, I guess now all we have left to do is get into the news. That's right. And we have a lot of news and not a lot of time. So let's start with some quick hits. PlayStation 5 Pro, that was announced.
Oh, yeah, and it's not a good value proposition, that's for sure.
It's a big stink burger, isn't it?
Oh,
yeah.
Sony, why are you doing this?
So
you were in the lead.
So it was announced at a price point of $700, and it is slightly slimmer than the regular PS5, and it has no disc drive. And the graphical enhancements and things are not enough to warrant
$700.
Yeah, how much is the regular one going for?
Five.
It's like
I think it's $5.
It's not worth an extra $200
for some ray tracing.
Yeah, ray tracing and not being able to use your physical media.
Yeah. Which it confuses me because I understand that it's a product aimed at an enthusiast market. That's a pro product.
Yes,
but I feel like people who are that invested in the PlayStation ecosystem are going to want hard copies of their games.
Yeah, no, I agree.
Especially since the PS5 with the disc drive is also backwards compatible with PS4.
Yeah, so you're losing all of that.
Yeah, that's the whole reason mine has a disc drive.
I was really hoping Nintendo was going to announce the Switch 2 and take all of the thunder when they say it's like $350. That would have been so good.
Oh, that would have been delicious.
For the price of this thing, you could buy 2 Steam Decks.
Yeah, you can buy like 3 Switches.
You could get a really good graphics card for your computer.
You could get a low-end but good enough computer.
I could buy so much Burger King, you guys.
You could buy a lot of Burger King.
Oh, yeah.
All right. So, yes, PS5 Pro, not a good investment.
I don't think they got the reaction they were looking for because everything I've been seeing is people just lampooning.
Well, you know what they say. Any
publicity is good publicity.
It was the announcement of the PlayStation 3 all over again.
It really was.
Yeah.
It really was.
I've seen that comparison a lot.
Sony just knocking it out of the park. Anyway,
that's what they do. They do a good one, and then they do a bad. They get like too confident, and then they trip over themselves.
Also, their obsession of every time they make a fat system, and then they're going to make a skinny system. Don't get me wrong.
It's always better.
Don't get me wrong. The PS5 is a chonky machine.
And it looks dumb as hell.
It does look dumb as hell, and it's huge. It's absolutely huge. This is stupid. This is so stupid.
Why? So this is a larger question. Why do game systems have to look so lame? Why can't they look like other adult
appliances?
Consumer grade electronics?
The Xbox is a big box.
Yeah,
it
and that's
looks fine. Yeah,
and that's fine.
Yeah, the new Xbox, I don't mind how it looks at all.
The new Xbox looks like some of those mini towers I've seen.
Yeah.
That's just what it is. It's a stupid mini tower.
Yeah, the Switch is professional enough looking for what it is.
When you got it in the dock, like it
looks
just
good.
looks like a thing.
Oh
there,
yeah,
you know?
good. Well, as long as you don't have the Technicolor or the fancy color Joy-Cons.
Yeah,
well,
it looks.
You gotta have a little fun.
I have two blue ones. That's how I do it.
Nice. I have my my fake wood grain ones. The wood grain is starting to rub off from playing it so much, but So moving on, before the trailers, Happy Gilmore 2 is happening. Happier Gilmore. I don't know if that's the actual name or not.
It should be.
Yeah,
that would be
Happy
funny.
2 more.
Yeah. Yes, that's it.
More like a happy tumor.
Happy 2 Gilmore.
Happy 2 Gilmore Tokyo Drift.
Along with that, Christopher, I'm going to look up his name, but Julie...
Not Pratt.
Not Pratt, but Julie Bowen and...
You can just say Shooter McGavin.
It is Shooter McGavin, but I want...
Hey, that's what he does on Twitter.
I want to do it right. His Twitter account is Shooter McGavin. It is Christopher McDonald. Christopher McDonald and Julie Bowen are both coming back. And also the rap artist Bad Bunny, who I'm not especially familiar with, but judging by what I've seen, not awesome.
I've listened to it. I've heard a couple of not listened to. I was more like I was held hostage sonically.
But along the same lines, if you were to look at a picture of him, he looks like young Adam Sandler if Adam Sandler were a tool.
He looks like a composite of Adam Sandler and another rapper called Riff Raff.
I could see it. He's probably playing like Happy Gilmore's son or something. I wonder if there'll be a digitally added Chubbs because that was...
he died. Though.
Yeah, digitally. Yeah, they'd have to put him in digitally.
No, I mean, like he died in the movie, didn't he?
But he's a ghost.
That's true.
He shows up at the end. He's telling Happy he did a great job and he's hanging out with the one-eyed crocodile.
Yeah, he's like
alligator.
He's like a Gulf Force
ate
ghost.
his hand. Yeah.
Yeah.
He's a Gulf Force ghost.
I know, we're missing the main point here, though, that the original Happy Gilmore covered all its bases. I think it said everything it needed to say.
It did.
About golf and golf culture in the first movie.
This is, I clapped when I saw it, the Adam Sandler edition, basically. And you know what? I liked Happy Gilmore enough. I'll give this a watch. If they were to make a Billy Madison 2, I would try it.
I don't even know how that would even work.
I don't either.
William Madison.
Yeah.
He grew up.
What if he has to go back to school again because they're like, oh, you were dating one of your teachers? That doesn't count.
That's problematic.
That's problematic. You have to go back to school as a 60-year-old. Oh, Scooby-Doo!
No, you got to get it. You don't have a college degree.
Oh, that's it. Yeah, you have to go back to college as an adult.
You can't run the company because you don't.
But that's not nearly as weird as going through elementary school as an adult. It's like adults go to college all the time. It's like, all right. Next up, very quick. We don't like talking about sad stuff on the show.
Oh yeah, here we go.
Prolific voice and screen actor James Earl Jones passed away this past week. He was 93. You would know him best, of course, as Mufasa.
Or the voice of Darth Vader.
Yeah,
I was making a joke.
Okay.
as the king in Coming to America, 1 and 2.
As the voice of Maggie Simpson in a Treehouse of Horror episode.
Oh, I forgot about that.
As the one neighbor that wears flat top wigs and throws records out of his windows in the movie Meteor Man.
Okay, you win.
Is that James
Meteor
Earl
Man?
Jones?
Yeah, it was James Earl Jones.
You win.
Mr. Moses. He played a bunch of old records, and at the end, during the big gang fight, he decides he's not going to hide in his apartment with his records anymore, and he starts whipping them out the window at the Golden Lords. Yeah, that's
He
him.
wasn't the blind guy in the basement, was he?
No. Well,
The one that had the meteor?
one wasn't blind, he was mute, and 2, that was Bill Cosby.
Was that Cosby?
That was Bill Cosby.
It's been forever since I've seen that movie.
It's a good movie, though.
Oh yeah, it was definitely in my cheesy superhero rotation.
It's a classic.
Like
yeah,
that and Blank Man from the Wayans Brothers.
Blank Man.
But yeah, it's a bummer.
I guess I feel like the writing was kind of on the wall, especially when he went to Disney and was like, "Hey, I give you permission to use AI with my voice, and I'm going to record a bunch of stuff so you can use it."
Well, that plus he was in Coming to America, the sequel to Coming to America, and he was in one scene bedridden, and the whole movie was about how he passed away, and the prince, played by Eddie Murphy, is now the king of the country, and he was not looking too hot in that. So let's talk about some trailers.
Yeah, trailer time.
First up, weird one, Salem's Lot remake.
Yep.
That's a movie that none of us really have much of a background with,
No.
but it's based on a Stephen King book. The movie was originally made in 1979, I believe.
I've heard the book is excellent.
I've heard the book is really
It's one
good
of his
as well.
better ones.
Pre-cocaine. That was when he was just writing. It was before he was like,
Super famous.
like, cars. What if cars are evil?
It was before he wrote the Tommyknockers and then didn't remember that he wrote
the Tommyknockers. Yes. But it's about a town that is possibly being overrun by vampires.
ghost
vampires.
They're Stephen King's version of vampires.
They could be whatever they want, but
Yeah.
they look more vampire-ish than anything else.
especially
And
in the original.
we watched the new trailer and then watched the original trailer to kind of compare and contrast. It looks good. Both
Yeah.
of them look fine. It looks like a pretty decent update, modernization and update to the original.
I feel like anymore there is like always a constant flow in the universe. There's taxes and Stephen King adaptations that keep getting made and remade.
Yeah.
But you know what? I won't say all of his books that have been turned into films have been A1 winners.
Oh, yeah.
But they're all pretty close to the source material because he's always involved with a lot of it. And they usually turn out pretty well. Now, Dark Tower wasn't great. I'll give you that. Dark
the hit
Tower
rate
wasn't awesome.
has been better lately than it was, back when the books were new.
Yeah.
You mean back when instead of making movies, they just made for TV movies?
Yeah.
Yeah. What was the one where it was like the evil semi that was chasing everybody?
Maximum Overdrive.
Maximum Overdrive. That was one of his,
it has
right?
the-
He directed that one.
Yeah, that's the one thing he directed, and it was not.
And it's nuts.
And
Yeah.
it has the Green Goblin on a semi truck.
There's a trailer for it that is insane that you should look up on YouTube.
Next up, there was another trailer for Wicked Part 1.
No, there wasn't a trailer.
there was.
Oh, there was?
There was.
I thought we already
It was
talked about
mostly
it.
the same.
Yeah,
it was like
the trailer wasn't that much different. From
they
the
announced the
first one.
trailer and also said, "Hey, we're pushing the release date up 5 days." What they didn't say is we're pushing the release date up 5 days so we don't have to compete with Zootopia 2, which is going to eat our lunch given the opportunity.
Because no one wants to go up against a Disney film.
Which I had no idea Zootopia 2 was coming out that soon.
I
me
I
either.
thought it was another year or so.
Yeah.
but-
I knew it was announced, and I'm like, oh, okay.
Yeah.
That guy on TikTok that really likes Judy Hopps will be very excited if he's not in prison.
Oh, yeah.
Oh no. You have
Yep.
to
Not
remind-
touching that
No.
any further. But
That's why I said if he's not in
if
prison.
he's not in prison. Yeah, Wicked, I mean, it was a popular stage play for a million years.
Oh, yeah, it's
the
huge.
movie has A-list S-tier actors.
Yeah.
But it's
Triple
probably
S
Yeah.
gotcha polls.
Yeah, you have to spend all your premium currency to get it.
Primogen
Yeah,
polychrome
get your
wheels.
red crystals. But no, but it was a smart move for them to move it because Zootopia is going to go nuts. All children and adults who like a very specific kind of thing are going to go nuts over this.
Oh yeah, the Disney adults are gonna love it.
That's what I
Yeah,
meant.
yes, exactly.
Maybe
Well,
wink.
It seems like any kids movie will win out any box out. If there's a kids movie that weekend, that one will win.
Oh yeah, because parents, or at least what my parents would do. Oh, you're being little terrors. Let's go to the movies.
Yeah, just shut up for 2 hours.
Okay, so that was always a reward for us. It wasn't a punishment. If
Well,
that
no,
were the
no.
case, I would be like, I'm going to be bad and awful on purpose because that means movies.
I wouldn't say it was a punishment. I would say it's more like a break for.
How dare you? You go to the movies. Go to your theater. All right, so next up, Venom has a final trailer. It must be coming out soon. I don't know the release date, but it's soon.
Venom: The Last Dance.
Yeah, and I loved the first one. Everything I have seen of the second one, I have enjoyed.
It's fine. I would say it's definitely not as good as the first one, but
Well,
it's still entertaining.
The first one was lightning in a bottle. You can't replicate something that you weren't sure you were going to get in the first place.
Yeah, because honestly, when the first trailers came out for the first Venom, I was kind of like,
I went thinking it was going to be a jokey, bad film and walked out going, that was actually awesome.
yeah.
except for that ending fight. I don't like that ending fight.
Well, like all superhero movies, it turns into a CGI nightmare by the end, which is a shame. I wish it would be boring and it wouldn't make people happy, but I wish there was a superhero film, and it could be like a lower budget or a lower tier superhero film.
like that Hellboy movie.
Like the
that's coming
Hellboy
out.
movie, where it's 90% practical. It doesn't turn into you're going to fight some giant blob monster in the middle of nowhere where it's all CG and there's no actual people on set. I want to see physical. I love physical media. Well, I love physical media, but I love physical props. I love physical
Practical
acting.
effects
Practical
is what you're-
effects.
is what you're
because
reaching
it
for.
looks
Thank
so
you.
good. It looks so good.
I saw
So much better.
a Nerdist article that was just straight out blasting that Hellboy movie, saying that it looked terrible.
What, the new one, the Crooked Man or whatever?
Yeah, and it's like,
fine.
whoa.
Wait, is that movie out? Did that movie come out?
I don't.
I think
don't know.
it was released at some film festival or
Oh,
something.
okay.
It
or
was just
pre-release
wild to
something.
me that the Nerdist would dump on something at
Well,
all.
No, it's the Nerdist though. They're the land of bad
I
takes.
was gonna say, is it because Legendary Pictures didn't make it? Is that
That's
why?
probably part of it. That could be definitely part of it. Yes, Legendary Pictures.
Did they do the original Hellboys?
No.
No.
They might have done the second one.
They might have done the
They
second
might have
one.
done the David Harbour one.
Yeah, you know what? That's probably
Well,
it.
there it is.
Yeah.
They don't want that one to succeed because they're mad about their bad one.
It's because they've only seen Hellboy as the movies where he's been a big buff dude, where in the Mike Mignola comics, he's a skinny guy with a big rock arm and a big coat. The fact that
he's still kind of wide. He's just got little legs.
A lot of the art, he's actually pretty thin, and the whole idea was it emphasized how big his big fist was. I'm looking forward to it.
Yeah,
but like
everything I've read about it sounded really cool and really like
yeah.
real Hellboy.
Hellboy is one of my favorite of the indie side of comics.
It's an indie comp.
Nah,
just barely.
It's a dark horse.
It might have started as an indie
Well,
comic.
yeah,
but
originally.
I mean, most comics start as an indie at some point.
Okay, so here's my question about comics, not about Hellboy specifically. The big two are Marvel and DC, right?
Yes.
Everybody knows Marvel and DC. Who is the third? Is
Image.
it Dark Horse? Is it Image? Is it Boom Studios? Boom Studios has been doing a lot lately with, but they're almost entirely
Kids comics, mostly.
either kids comics or previously established license. They're the ones that do the G.I. Joe and the Transformers and the Power Rangers. and all that.
IDW also does. Those
IDW does a lot of those as well. They're tied with Disney a lot as well.
Yeah.
So that's where the Darkwing Duck comics.
I
or am I
feel-
flipping those around? It might be IDW is Power Rangers and Turtles and all that, and then
IDW does
and then Boom
Turtle.
is Turtle is
Boom does Turtles.
I'm pretty
Not
sure Boom. I'm pretty sure Boom was Power Rangers.
Boom was Power Rangers.
Boom is Power Rangers.
IDW is
Ninja
Turtles.
Turtles.
This is nothing.
I'm losing it. This is nothing.
I'm pretty sure Image. I feel like Image is the third
Image.
one.
Image.
Yeah.
I guess it depends on the year because back in the 90s it was Dark Horse.
Yeah, I would
Dark
say
Horse
Dark
and-
Horse. If they still had Star Wars,
Yeah.
then it would be Dark Horse, but they don't have Star Wars.
True. That's a good point. That's a really
Who
good
had
point.
Spawn.
Image.
That was Image because that was
Todd McFarlane helped start Image.
Yeah,
Okay.
and that was his creator owned. That it was released the same time as the Max and Wildcats, which was Jim Lee's.
Oh, right.
Not to be confused with Gunsmith Cats.
No,
Which is an anime that has the best theme
Or
song.
SWAT Cats.
or SWAT Cats.
Oh, speaking of cheesy cartoons, real quick, I saw at Walmart in the collector toy area in the entertainment area.
Which drives me nuts. They should all just be in the toy area.
I know. Biker Mice from Mars figures.
I
and
saw
they look
those,
awesome.
and if they weren't prohibitively expensive,
Oh, I know. They look awesome.
Same with the new. Have you seen the new Street Sharks?
Yes.
Those new Street Sharks with like 20 points of articulation look amazing. I'm not spending $30 on a Street Shark. I refuse.
Talking about some abnormals. Animals with abs. Speaking
Yeah,
of which,
abnormals, yeah.
That's kind of news. The next
Yeah.
season of the Adventure Zone was announced like a week ago.
A week ago, yeah.
And it's based on Ninja Turtles-esque animals with abs.
And anthropomorphic animal superheroes.
Yeah.
And and that's Adventure Zone is the My Brother and Me, the McElroy brothers and their dad.
Yeah.
Doing D&D.
Yes.
Or tabletop, I guess. Tabletop RPGs, because they've done some outside of D&D,
Yeah.
the rules. Plus, when they did D&D, it was pretty light on the rules.
I mean,
Yeah.
I feel like a lot of D&D podcasts are a little light on the rules.
Well, sure. I mean, that's
entertainment.
They're there to tell a story.
Yeah,
It's telling a
entertainment.
story, rule of cool, and the DM has the last say in things. That's all it comes
I mean,
down to.
that's page 1 of the DM of the D&D.
Yeah.
Anyway, we're getting really off topic.
I don't care. We're doing off-topic things. That's awesome.
The last season of the Adventure Zone was fantastic too. The
I've heard it's
Adventure
real
Zone
good.
versus Dracula. I think I might like it better than their original like big balance arc. To be honest.
Really, because
Yeah.
I loved the balance arc.
I need to get caught back.
I
up.
think-
I'm years out of the way.
There are 2 graphic novels away from having the entire balance arc
Yeah.
released.
Oof, nice.
Yeah.
Also, like the third and fourth ones, I got really cheap at Ollie's.
Oh, really?
Yeah, hardback too.
Nice.
For real?
Nice.
Yeah, they might still be there. They probably are still there. Everything stays at Ollie's forever.
I always forget about that place.
This show is not sponsored by Ollie.
Well, here, let me prove it to you. That place sucks. I hate going. I go in there every once in a while because occasionally you will find something, but like it sucks. They got that guy's weird cartoon face everywhere.
The
Hate
marketing
that
is
guy.
pretty bad.
Well, that's like going to Menards.
Oh yeah, the ads
Yeah.
for Menards every time you walk into Menards. I'm already here. I'm already here buying things. You don't have to advertise to me. I know I could save big money at Menards. I'm already here. That's why I'm here.
That Ollie's guy must be such a humongous narcissist.
Oh yeah.
To go in his store and see his freaking face everywhere you turn.
He's his own mascot.
It's weird.
It is.
It's not right.
Yeah. All right, last up. Hard pivot.
It's not right.
There was another trailer for Agatha All Along. They've also released a bunch of like featurettes, kind of behind the scene things.
The spin-off of the Marvel Disney Plus series WandaVision.
And it has the worst name.
Yeah, I hate that.
Oh my god.
Coven of Chaos was so much.
And it fits what they're doing.
And it had alliteration. I feel like alliteration adds everything.
Especially with a Marvel property.
Yeah.
So Stan Lee loves alliteration.
Yeah.
I mean, so does DC, though.
Well, it's true. But, I like Catherine Hahn. I liked Agatha Harkness as a side character.
Oh, yeah. She was
and the main antagonist, I guess.
Yeah,
Spoiler, the show's been out forever, whatever.
Yeah, she was fantastic. I loved her character.
I don't know how the show is going to do with her as a lead. Not saying that she can't be a lead in something.
She clearly can.
She clearly can.
She's done it
great
a billion times.
But I don't know if the character has enough to work.
Yeah.
This does have the distinction of being the first Marvel MCU or Marvel Entertainment property to have a main character who does not have her own comic or has never had her own comic. Agatha Harkness has always been, well, one, she's always been kind of a good guy. And two, she's always been a backup character in anywhere from, it was X-Men for a while because she trained magic, the part magic, part mutant sister of Colossus. She trained Scarlet Witch when Scarlet Witch's powers went from vague luck powers to actual magic. Even though she's a mutant, not a witch. Right. Well, it's
very confusing.
It's very confusing, but I'm looking forward to it. Looks interesting.
At the very least, it might be a fun Halloween watch.
Yeah,
definitely.
And it comes out in a couple days, right? About a week.
It comes out September 18th.
Yeah, so
not even a week.
Middle of next week.
Yeah, which is a weird time to drop.
Yeah,
I like witches. So,
who doesn't?
Who doesn't like a fun witch?
Yeah,
Practical Magic. It's one of my favorite movies.
The only thing I'm concerned with is I have had the conspiracy theory for years that Marvel has been setting up the Young Avengers.
100%.
You have young Hawkeye in the Hawkeye series. You have Patriot showed up in Falcon Winter Soldier. I am concerned that this is nothing more
Scar.
than Scar at the end of
She-Hulk.
Ironheart. They could probably roll Miss Marvel in there, although she's not technically part of it. Whatever. I am concerned that they're using this solely as a springboard to set up the character Wiccan. Because it's so clear that is who the one kid is in
the
this.
non-witch.
The non-witch who can't say his own name, so technically we don't know who he is, but he looks exactly and is portrayed exactly like the Scarlet Witch's magic son who was wished out of existence, but then his soul ended up in another kid's body so he is technically not the child of Scarlet Witch, but is the child of Scarlet Witch.
He can't say his name because it's borderline problematic.
That's, of course. You know it, yeah.
My biggest concern with this show is that anytime that Aubrey Plaza isn't on screen, I'm going to be like, where's Aubrey Plaza?
Oh, that's a foregone conclusion.
Why isn't she on screen?
That's what I'm going to say.
Is that like the litmus test for us?
Yeah. Yeah, I'd say so. All right, anyway, we have hit time, so let's go ahead and wrap things up for the week. You have been listening to Nerd Overload. Thank you very much for tuning in. You can find us each and every day over at nerdoverload.com.
You can find us on our socials. We have Facebook, Instagram, Twitch, or you can support our Patreon. You can find all of those at links.nerdoverload.com.
You can send us an email, staff@nerdoverload.com, or call us on the Nerd Overload hotline. That's 740-229-9562. Man, I missed the old number. It was easier to say.
It was much easier to say and easier to remember, but this one's good too. Don't knock the new one because it's the current one.
Yeah.
And before Google takes it back.
Before we have to do it again.
Leave us a message and we'll play it on the show.
That's right. You can find all of our back episodes on various podcast places such as Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Amazon Music, and YouTube.
Support our YouTube.
Other things might pop up on the YouTube. Who knows? Who knows what might happen? It's the Wild West over there. Finally,
And then you might see a tumbleweed.
You might see it. Anyway, I'd like to thank Parker for helping us out at the Facebook page, and David Pencil for our intro and outro. So again, thank you all for tuning in, and we will be back next week.
Pizza out, everybody.
So long, partners.
Buckaroos.